Okay, I hope you can also see my screen. Thank you for everyone who's been texting us. We're joined by Domenico. I will just introduce myself. My name is Karen Sharir. I'm the CMO of Nyx Global, and we're excited to be joined by Domenico. If you have any questions during the webinar, you'll see that you have a question kind of chat box, and please just ask us anything and we will gladly answer your questions. So a few words about Nayax. Nayax offers a complete solution. We developed a complete platform from cashless payments to management to loyalty and consumer engagement, and of course, monitoring and managing machines. Everything that you need to attend to your unattended consumer and unattended machine. So when we say complete platform, we believe that by providing that, we help you grow. And our goal is to increase your sales by reducing operational costs. So by continuously develop our platform and value-added services, we don't only want you to have an ROI that makes sense. We want to reduce the cost of ownership to a level of that is low as just accepting cash. And we see that. So we, as I said, we're a platform provider, but we also take pride in providing the best support. And we keep developing tools to help our customers not only utilize all of our capabilities, but also learn as when they want, from university to chats, whenever you need to get a service or just see how you actually operate within our system, we have a solution for you. Nayax has more than 150 developers that are developing the solution specifically for unattended retail. That's our core business, that's what we do, and that's what we specialize on. And we're also a payment institution in the EU. So we know that cashless helps you grow, but what does it mean? By actually adding cashless payment, we see, depending on the country, an increase of 15 to 30% growth. And we don't see as much reduction in cash. And we all know as consumers, we actually prefer to buy using cashless payments. Personally, I don't have cash anymore, but I guess it's different from country to country, and that's why we see a major difference. So when we looked at COVID and what it did, we actually looked at Q2 of 2019 and compared it to Q2 of 2020. And we saw an increase between 8 to 18% of cashless payments. People are choosing now to pay with cashless. So a little bit of more statistics. According to your European Vending and Coffee Association, the EVA, 100% of suppliers and operators in the UK see a higher demand for cashless payments, and it comes from us as consumers. More than that, 7 in 10 people now use contactless, which is around 2/3 of all cashless transactions in the UK are now contactless. And consumers actually spend more when they purchase via contactless payment. Let me just take you as to why, what we see now in unattended in general. So unattended in general is also making a shift because of COVID. We see that people are choosing to do to go through the route of self-checkout, to choose unattended. And we see that even the vending and unattended retail are doing some sort of a shift right now. It's more PPE and masks, and we're changing the way that we're looking at unattended in general. So more than that, we are completely pushing innovations for unattended retail. So by using our Monix Wallet app, we are providing our customers to offer loyalty and rewards, and even instant refund, which is creating a great consumer interaction is now done in real time with a click of a button. And from COVID, we wanted to address the concern of consumers that they actually, again, want to keep that unattended, even when selecting a product. And to do so, we are actually invented another way to make a selection on a vending machine or to choose a product. Okay, so when we look at the unattended retail trend, what do we see? We know that we started by obviously having payments in cash. Then we added telemetry and machine management. Then multiple payment options, and we all chose to pay with credit cards. Now we're actually adding that extra layer, which is to pay, to those who don't know, this is our Monix mobile payment app. And we have added consumer engagement and mobile payments, loyalty, feedback, all these things that you're used to seeing in retail, you can now do in unattended retail. That extra step is digitization, personalization, that we are actually communicating with the consumer, the unattended consumer. It's still a consumer like any other. So what can we get from that digital digitalization that we're going through? Obviously, app sales and consumer engagement, as I said before, consumer feedback, instant refund, those loyalty programs that we know how to offer. And for those who haven't seen our few case study about how adding loyalty to your operation actually increase your sales and your revenue, that's a great thing to check out. You can also talk about your brand and create a brand for yourself and look at your data. It's all being done with our Monix Wallet app. And we see different apps being used globally. As Nayax, our goal is to connect to any payment method that the region is used to. If you have more questions, I'm here to answer them. So let me know. What is Monix Wallet? Is there a minimum number of machines that have to use Monix? No, there isn't a minimum number of machines to allow Monix. In fact, we did see a lot of kind of closed environment operators that have utilized Monix and saw an increase of sales. One of the nice things about Monix is you can actually digitize prepaid cards also. So when you're in a location, you can actually use a prepaid card and utilize that option as well. So there's no minimum. How do you get the planogram of the machine to your mobile phone? That is actually still in development. As you saw from the video, we have another option. I don't know if you saw it was kind of fast, but you can actually do like an A1. You can choose like the bin itself. So that's another option to utilize that. Yes, so the question is the purchase touchless app part of your service? Yes, it is. It's part of the Monix Wallet app that we covered in this slide, last slide. So it helps you not only do touchless payments, if you will, touchless purchase, but also provide immediate feedback from your consumers and loyalty and all the stuff that we covered here. So now we will finally give the mic to Domenico. So, hi, Domenico.
Hey, Karen, how are you doing? Apologize, team. I also had some technological issues. This is the COVID-19 technological experience, right?
It is.
You hear me well?
So yes, we can hear you, and I hope that everyone can hear you as well. If you're not raise your hands, we thank you that you're so patient with us. That is nice.
Okay, super. So, hi everyone. Thanks first of all to Nayax for inviting me, and hope you're all safe and sound despite all this crisis that affected us. I think that this is really a moment also where we are all looking at to see how we can rebound and come to a new kind of normal. So without further ado, Karen, if you can move to the first slide with the new normal, so when you see the before and after. Indeed, here we took an example that I think is familiar to a lot of people. Well, it's a London example, but obviously this is also something happening in other big cities, right? Where before the new normal, although we are still waiting for it to become normal, we were commuting, we were using the public transportation, we were having different merchant interaction from a food perspective. We were also going to different stores, and obviously with the COVID and the lockdown, things changed, right? We were working from home, we were using different transportation methods, we were also buying food and buying consuming differently, right? And also paying differently. And this is what is going to be very interesting here in our discussion. Here you can see some stats around, retail's growth around the world with a situation in April. And you see here on the left-hand side of the screen the different regions. And here, obviously, I took you a snapshot around the globe. But what is interesting in the other stats that you're seeing at the bottom is these are European stats, right? And this is really where I'm looking at as as an acceptance business development director for Europe, where our growth is coming and where the growth is coming in general in the retail sector. And indeed, e-com transaction have been raising of 33% during April and May, and in the card present, that is transactions occurring on a face-to-face environment between merchants and consumers, 78% of transactions are now contactless, and 42% of people are using less cash. This is interesting because, as you might have heard, during the COVID, Mastercard worked with a number of payment institutions, amongst which, of course, also Nayax, to increase contactless limits across Europe from 25 euros to 50 euros. So actually, the limit has been doubled, which has been also boosting transaction. And you can see here in the what will stay out of the new normal in terms of a survey that Mastercard has been conducting. So if you look at what changes are here to stay on the right-hand side of the screen, clearly you can see that people, 69% of the people we have surveyed are looking to do more contactless payments. So this is very interesting, because if you look at some markets in Europe that were, I would say, having lower contactless penetration before the crisis. Let's say, for example, Germany, who moved from 17% to 59%, for example. You can see big move, right? And the 78% here, it's an average across EEA and high growth markets such as Turkey and Russia. So this is really a kind of European aggregated number that you're seeing here below. And this is also very interesting because it's also changing the way consumers want to interact with merchants, right? And we are seeing here in the survey, for example, that there are some new ways of connecting with friends and families, but also with merchants. And we are going to see this in a second. But before that, Karen, if you can move to next slide, I wanted to show you some stats actually that we had before COVID. So because obviously we are looking at before and after or during still, right? And before COVID crisis in Europe, if you look here at Q4 2019 stats, contactless was already growing. You see from Q4 2017 to Q4 2019, there was a 40% increase and a 14% decrease in ATM. Now, as I said, and this is again across EEA and high-growth markets such as Russia and Turkey, this has moved to 78% now of transactions being contactless and 42% decrease in ATM withdrawals. So people withdrawing, I would say, less cash to pay with cash. And we also saw that before the crisis that tappers are 5% less likely to prefer cash than non-tappers. Why is this stat interesting? Is that as you saw in the previous slide with the, I would say, the new habits that consumers have with contactless as a payment mean, preferred payment mean, this is clearly something that will be reinforced in the future, knowing that these stats were just before the crisis. So this is for us something that we are growing and seeing. Obviously, and I'll come back to that later, you have not only the physical plastic card, but also other means of payment, such as your smartphone, right? Or even more now with the Fitbit or Garmin connected IoT devices that can also be enabled to do a payment. And for unattended operators or retailers like you over this webinar, clearly we do see some positive trends that could also contribute to your, I would say, in some of the verticals to reinforce and reboost some of your transactions in your park. So Karen, now we can move perhaps to a more contextual view by going to the next slide. As I was saying, you know, one thing is the stats, but another one is what are the trends from a retail perspective in the interaction between merchants and consumer. Clearly, there is a convergence between physical and digital, and consumer are looking not to have different experiences like in the past by channel. That is physical versus online versus mobile. No, here they're trying to have a kind of unified perspective, and this is really something on which Mastercard and its partners are working on to boost that demand and make sure that, I would say, that different segments are being served with this conversion, but also with the relevant technologies, right? And funny enough, if we move to next slide, Karen, it's all about, you know, user experience, right? And how do you make this user experience fit to this unified experience demand? Of course, there is a need to digitalize the physical retail experience, and this is why, of course, you need to see in the next slide, if we look at different investment choices and also return on investment. Karen, if you can move to next slide, please. There are obviously a number of questions that you will ask yourself, right? Because obviously today you are perhaps having a certain cost related to cash acceptance. So the fact of accepting cash and not card payments. Well, obviously, what will card payment bring me as a return on investment? Well, clearly, as I show you to the stats, there is the demand for that. So clearly, it's about not missing some sales, right? And this is crucial in such kind of environment where the virus has increased the fear and the hygiene concerns when interacting with a merchant and paying, well, obviously this kind of touch-free experiences are very important. So this is why a number of use cases have already started to develop before the crisis, but are even further being reinforced now. And if we move to the next slide, Karen, there are a number of retail experiences, and here you might say to me, Domenico, this is not unattended. Well, I will let you know why we are starting here with, I would say, attended type of retail. Is that this is creating a demand and a need, or a standardization, I would even say, on the consumer side, and consumer experiences that, of course, consumers will have as an habit, new normal, and will be, I would say, in a position to see in other type of experiences, such as, of course, unattended. And actually, it's interesting because some attended retailers are actually also looking to go through unattended, right? Like having experiences like cashierless shops. Amazon Go started this already months ago, but this is also moving to the next steps with other use cases in Europe. You have, well, phygital experiences, gamification, where you actually really converge the two physical and digital worlds. You have this, I would say, a frictionless approach, a bit like what you're doing. For those of you who are buying on shopping on Amazon, you store your card on your account, and then after you've made your first transaction, the next time you can just pay in one click. Well, this is exactly some of the stuff that the retailers are also trying to implement and are implementing, and that we are really strongly pushing for that as Mastercard, as card scheme, to have this frictionless and help retailers to move into this new direction. So if now we go to the next slide and look, I would say, at the unattended verticals. Well, obviously, I just said that attended retail is setting some norms that will affect unattended, right, in terms of user experiences. But at the same time, attended are looking at the unattended, and this is clearly where with all the use cases that you have a lot of expertise on already, and that you have been working on, and of course also with solutions like the ones that Nayax is proposing, you can for sure push and go into this user experience needs of a unified commerce approach, from micro markets to transit to vending, EV charging, self-service kiosk, smart apps for laundries, or even charities. Here you can see an example of charity that we have been rolling out in Spain. Well, I mean, there are so many use cases that we have already worked on, and that players, again, like Nayax, have experience on, and that can really, I would say, serve your needs from that perspective. And not only from this UX perspective, right? It's also a way to boost and to optimize your cash flow in terms of receiving faster settlements. You have more automation, thus decreasing some of the maintenance or operational costs that you have to collect cash. Better reconciliation across your different park if you are in multiple regions or multiple countries. And obviously also loyalty, right? If you are doing some kind of convergence between physical and digital, and also unifying the channels of payments, you can also do some better loyalty systems with your consumers, and thus be where your consumer are willing to see you, right? So clearly, I would say that if we go to the next slide, going cashless is, for those of you like music, another brick to your wall, right? It's something that will for sure help you and to move ahead also, and to remove some of your transactions for some of the verticals that were affected by COVID. And of course, we are delighted to be here to answer some of the questions that you may have, or of course, in a follow-up also, please do not hesitate to reach out to me or to Karen's and Nayax team. Thank you very much. I was cautious of time. I had to shorten some of the items I wanted to say, but I'm cautious that we have 15 minutes and it's important to keep this as interactive as possible.
Thank you so much, Domenico. We actually do have a lot of questions. So I'm just going to read a few. So we were asked, how are unattended verticals contributing to cashless payment trend?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's a very good question. So, you know, I was speaking here about the number of transactions. Remember, if you look back at the slides that I was referring to before, at the transactions that are growing. Keep in mind that mass market retail banks, so the ones that I would say issuing most of the cards to cardholders across Europe, when we look at the top 5, top 10 transactions they have on a monthly basis, unattended is clearly there, right? From vending to parking and many more use cases, or even transit now, like, you know, issuers are really seeing unattended as a way for their cardholders to consume in a more efficient way. And clearly, unattended is contributing to the fact that people are paying more and more by card, right? Because you have more and more use cases and point of acceptance where you as a cardholder can pay with your card instead of having to take a card. So clearly you're contributing to that, and you're also contributing to a good perception of the card usage, right? Because if you look at the chargebacks, that is the refunds for fraudulent transactions, for example, you can see that unattended is having low chargeback rates, right? And thus, of course, contributing to the good experience of cardholders in terms of perceiving safety also with the card. Not safety just from a hygiene perspective, touch-free perspective that I've just mentioned, but also safety from secured transaction, right? More than cash. So clearly, unattended is contributing to cashless.
Perfect, thank you. Another question we had is contact versus contactless. Where are we heading? What are we seeing as trends in Europe?
Absolutely, yes. So as I was saying, you know, 78% of transactions that we are seeing in our network across EEA, Russia, Turkey are contactless transactions now. So this is very interesting, right? On the card present side of things, because it means that consumers have adopted. I've mentioned some stats earlier during this presentation. For example, in Germany, where people were using contactless at a rate of 17% before, and now are moving to 59 after the crisis. So clearly there is like a big growth in contactless penetration in such kind of markets. And you have also a number of markets with incredible, I would say, rates, such as Czech Republic, 93% of contactless usage compared to contact. Russia, 89%. So I mean, clearly, and even more like Mediterranean countries such as Spain, 77% of contactless transactions. So it's really a pace that we are seeing, and this pace is even further being reinforced by new fintechs that are issuing new cards and giving the opportunity to cardholders to digitalize their card into wallets such as Apple Pay or Google Pay, and actually having a digital first type of experience, a mobile experience, and actually pushing consumers to use contactless with their phone. That is tapping your phone on a terminal. So clearly all these conversions, and I mentioned also the IoT, that is every device actually is becoming a commerce device. That is, you can enable card payments such as your smartwatch, right? Apple Watch, Garmin, Fitbit, or wristband, or whatever. We are even also looking at developing car verticals, such with car manufacturers, to also have connected cars that can also have this capability. So when you go to a parking, you have kind of automated type of interaction of payments, or automated fuel dispenser for paying your fuel. So many use cases where all this, I would say, contactless transaction will only be further reinforced.
Perfect. Thank you so much for those numbers. It's what we're seeing as well in Unattended. You actually mentioned Germany, you know, that we see a lot more cashless payments in general. So thank you for that. API, someone asked us if they can integrate the Monix capabilities into other apps. We have some information about that, and I urge you to go to your sales team and ask the local sales team how to do that. About the logos, you can have your logo in the app, in the machine in Monix Wallet. Also, not a problem, we can do that. So that's a lot to do with Monix. You can find a lot of information in our website, in the university, in our YouTube channel. Thank you, Domenico, so much for participating and contributing and teaching us all about cashless payments. Thank you for everyone who joined. We will send you actually an email following this with some kind of a summary of what we discussed today. And if you have any questions, please feel free to contact us. Thank you so much. Stay safe and have a great day.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.